Satchel from Steel Panther. You're listening to Metal Stream Radio with Metal Matt, and he is totally naked from the waist down.
Hey, Metal Matt here with another Metal Stream Radio show, my show, Metal Matt Show. I'm here every week, Fridays, Saturdays, and you can tune in 6 p.m. UK time, but anywhere around the world, you'll just have to translate it to UK time, because that's the only time I know, but wherever you are around the world, you can tune in, but I'm actually out in Mexico, sunny old Mexico, and it's very hot. In fact, the sun is not actually out right now, but it is still caliente, mucho caliente, very hot, basically. It's that time of year now where the sun is shining even when it's not. It's very hot, in other words. I mean, it's nice to have that kind of difference. Being British, I grew up in England, obviously, and I've lived all my life in England. But my recent years have been spent in Mexico, and it's been an experience. I've tried to blend in and do my musical ventures over here, and it's definitely took me to some good places. I've had plenty of cool opportunities. I've sang even the karaoke things here are like crazy. I've done a few karaoke things and had a great response from the crowds. At some of the hotels, some of the Rio hotels here, they have a whole big stage setup. It's crazy. It's like a proper stage performance with great sound, great microphone and stuff. And I remember quite early on when I'd come to Mexico, I had the opportunity to get up and sing Painkiller by Judas Priest, which was an absolute blast. And I think I did Small Town Boy by Bronski Beats. I love all that 80s stuff. Maybe a bit of Queen too. I Want to Break Free and different things. I've done Sweet Child of Mine. I've done a few karaoke things, but not that many, because it's not very often I'm in the Rio hotels. But occasionally we used to be able to go for a day pass and different things, so that was always fun. And if it was karaoke night, you knew it was going to be crazy. But apart from that, I've sang in quite a lot of bands over here. If you don't know much about me, I'm a metal singer, Metal Matt. And I was given my name by Rob Halford of Judas Priest. Got a Christmas card off him one year with Metal Matt on it. He wrote Metal Matt on the envelope and stuff, and yeah, it's just all went from there. I thought that was cool, because I've met him a few times before that, and he kind of knew me by then, in a vague kind of way. So, he followed me on Instagram. Not followed me, but followed my stuff. He saw my stuff on there and stuff, and I'd met him a few times. So, yeah, very nice of him, to give me that title as a up-and-coming metal singer at the time. It was a great thing that kind of helped me forge my own, because nobody really out there is going to help you in life, so you got to forge your way on your own. And the good thing is, I had the name, and I still do have that Metal Matt name, which is great, because I kind of, before that, I had Matt Gothic, which was a name I kind of just started out with, because my stuff was more gothic at the beginning. I was doing a lot of gothic tracks. Maybe I'll dig some out during this show, try and show you some of my early stuff if I can find some. So I started off doing a lot of acoustic stuff, kind of a different vibe to what I do now. I still do a bit of that. There's always an element of goth, but I kind of went over to doing a lot more collaborative stuff where people compose music for me. So it's like having a band, but without having a band, you just sort of collaborate. I've had people reach out to me over the years, and I got, a small handful of people who send me songs, and I can ask them to do songs for me and different stuff, and I do the lyrics and the vocals kind of thing. Bit different to Elton John with Bernie Taupin. I think Elton writes no lyrics, he just does the music, and Bernie writes the lyrics, so he does the music and the singing, whereas I do the writing of the lyrics and the singing, and I tend to leave the music to talented people who are good at that, good at composing. I did play guitar for a lot of years, I still do on and off, but singing is what really did it for me. And it's quite weird thinking back of how it all started, because if I look back, it's kind of quite random. I used to be very shy. I went to music college for a year just because I hated school and college, and I had no choice to have to do it. It's one of those things they said you got to do. And some people were going to college for like 3 years or something, and I was like, that's too long. I want out. As soon as school ended, I wanted out, really, of any system like that. But seeing as it wasn't an option, I did 1 year media at one college and 1 year music at another college. And I honestly can't say I learned anything, because all it was sat on computers or sat in a room listening to the teachers yak and go on and on. There was hardly any practical stuff. I remember the media course, we did one film at the end of the course, which most people just filmed in the classroom, just like a crappy little film, just to get the grade kind of thing. Whereas I was like, I've been waiting all year to do a film, because I thought that's what the point of doing media and film was. I thought we'd be making loads of films, but one film in a whole year. So I was like, fuck it, I'm going to go out into the world. So I went out into Bristol, my city where I was living and doing the college, and I filmed a video for Public Image Limited. This Is Not a Love Song, because I think what we were told to do is make a music video for a song. So that's what I did, but I did it for Public Image Limited. And I did it all around Bristol, and I come up with a kind of storyboard with my teammates. We storyboarded it, and I remember it was me, this other guy, and then another guy. There's Will was one of the guys. Can't remember the other guy's name. And it's supposedly this girl who was supposed to be part of our team as well, who did not show up for any of it. But I still put her name on the credits of the video because I felt bad. I thought, I want to make sure she, passes the course at least. So she was credited for doing nothing, but I said she helped edit. But I remember the only good thing that came out of that was the editing. It was my first time using a really good editing program, and I really enjoyed the process of editing. It's quite an enjoyable thing, editing, a video. But I don't know where I was going with this, but singing, how I started singing. So that's how that started. I did media for a bit. I've always had an interest in media, but I always had to kind of do what I wanted to do, because the teachers and the things we were supposed to be doing were never aligned to anything that interested me. So I tried to make it fun and do something. And I did get a good pass on that. And I remember I wasn't very good at listening in the classes either. I always struggled, kind of, because it was so boring. I couldn't retain what they were trying to teach me. So I remember I had a strategy I come up with to pass the course, because there was a lot of paperwork we needed, and I knew that teachers kind of find marks sometimes, like they go through a load of stuff and maybe there should be something there but it's missing, but if you've referenced it somewhere else they can kind of give you points, kind of thing. So that's what I did. What I did at the very end of the course, because I thought I'm probably missing like 5 or 6 things here which I was supposed to do, which I didn't do because I didn't understand it at the time. So what I did is I like Googled a load of stuff about photography, and I learned a load of it, and I kind of copied a load of it, and I just referenced a load of random stuff that I thought, well, it gives them something to find. I knew the vague subject of what I was supposed to be writing, but I didn't know how I was supposed to do it, if you know what I mean. So I did this kind of scramble of random stuff they didn't ask me to do. I wrote pages on maybe macro photography and pages on media, strategies or something, and then luckily it worked. I think I got a distinction even though I was probably missing pages worth of stuff, because I made a load of extra pages just to make up for points, because it was a BTEC course, so it wasn't the kind of thing where you sit down in a room and do a exam. They just collect all your papers basically that you've done over the year, your folder, and then they mark it all, So yeah, I kind of found a way to get around that, and I got a distinction, but guess what? That meant nothing. As many of these things, university, college, people are paying good money to go to university, and then you end up not actually being able to study the thing or work in the thing that you studied after being in debt and all these things. So there's so many things, that I think is wrong with the whole system, because often you don't get anywhere. Some people have a good experience and they make friends and stuff, which is great, But if you're in debt at the end of it, then I don't really see the point. So I'm glad I didn't do university. Like I said, I just wanted to get through it. And then my music course I did, I'd always loved music, so it wasn't kind of like a thing for me where I was like, right, this is going to be a totally new experience doing music. You know, I played guitar for years, and that's basically all I did in the college. I did guitar, and I was too shy to sing in front of anyone. I didn't even think I was much of a singer back then. I remember privately with one of my mates there who I was confident enough to sing in front of just because he was a good friend. We'd blast Marilyn Manson, and I'd sing along. And he always said, "Oh, you got a good voice for it, man." I was like, "Oh no, you're better," you know, because he did a good Manson. But I enjoyed singing, but in the privacy of my own room, you know, in the practice room, you know. So that was kind of my first introduction to singing. And I think over the years I'd sang briefly, and sometimes people had told me that I've got a good voice and a good metal voice sometimes and different things. Usually when I was just messing around. So somewhere from that and just playing guitar in that course, because I played at a gig, I think we did a gig at the end of the music course. Again, only one gig, a whole year of boring classroom stuff and sat at computers writing absolute nonsense. And then one actual practical gig. You know, I'm very practical. I like to do practical things. But yeah, one practical gig where I think I played Breaking the Law on the stage and some other guys sang. And that was my college experience, basically. Very boring, but it was done. I was like, great, it's done. And towards the end of that year, I think that's when I met Rob Halford and all those kind of people for the first time, Richie Faulkner. You know, I was always a big Judas Priest fan, and I was lucky enough to meet my heroes, and that kind of inspired me. And somewhere along the way, I switched over to singing. I remember singing along to the Live Vengeance 82 kind of show, because that's my favourite kind of heavy metal show, and certainly my favourite Judas Priest show, The Vengeance 82 in Memphis, Tennessee. Fantastic show, great DVD. Got it signed by KK and Rob, so that's great. But yeah, I remember singing along to that, you know, and my dad might have said, oh, you're pretty good, you sing pretty good though, whatever. And then somewhere from that, my mum always told me, you know, I remember I used to sing a bit of Erasure or something just on my laptop, and sometimes karaoke things for fun, you know, growing up, and my mum liked it and stuff. And that was it, really. You know, that is the only experience of singing I did. But somewhere along the way, I thought, I'm gonna do this properly. I don't think my whole mission was to be a singer, because I started off doing, like I say, acoustic kind of stuff, and naturally it was quite gothic. I guess as a teenager, it's all kind of, you're always depressed and all that, so it's quite natural for me to write something gothic, but I've always loved the style of goth. So I did this album, Metal Matt Acoustic, which was very raw and not very good really, but I made a CD cover, did it all myself, got the covers printed, got the CD cases, the CDs, made it look really cool, and then I chucked them on like Instagram, because I had a big following. During this gothic period, I managed to build up a big Instagram following, because I guess it was quite appealing at that time, you know. I was kind of young, I was goth, there's lots of other goths who like that style and stuff, so I built up a big following of 20,000. I had a goal of 20,000, and that's as far as I got, and that's as far as I could see was 10,000, and that, not 10,000, 20,000. At first it was 10,000, then I kind of had 20,000. That was kind of the maximum I could see me getting. And I did get up to 20,000, and to this day it kind of just stays around that number, you know, which is weird. It kind of goes to show that manifesting, you know, if you put your mind to something, you can get there, but it's not the be-all and end-all, because it doesn't really mean anything, you know. At the time it was good because I used to sell CDs, you know, so I had this Metal Matt acoustic album, very raw, completely acoustic, not really mixed, just me playing guitar and singing, and that's it. And then I did a second album, Sonic Love, which was a little bit better because it was acoustic still, but it had kind of an atmospheric vibe. I found this app. I used to just record with an app, and it made it all very haunting, which is kind of the vibe I was going for. So I did like 10 songs of these kind of very, you know, it sounds like I'm in a cathedral, you know, recording, which I liked, you know. And I remember playing it in the car for KK Downing when I interviewed him, Judas Priest guitarist. he listened to my CD in the car and he said, "Oh, it's got Dave Mustaine vibes." I think he was talking about the opening track, Sonic Love. I think perhaps he was thinking of the guitar more than anything. As a guitarist, so it had quite blasty guitar things. And he also said, "Oh, how did you record this?" And I was like, "Oh, just an app kind of thing, you know." And I don't know if he thought it was crap, the recording. He might have thought it was absolute rubbish, or he might have thought, "Oh, it's interesting sound," because it is. When I listen to it now, I think it is quite a good sound. It's not exactly what you'd hear on every album you hear, but maybe that's a good thing. Sometimes if you can create a sound and a vibe that is different, surely that is what you need to do. I mean, it might have been a bit low budget how I was doing it at the time and things, but the songs were good. At least a handful of them were. You Know That I'm Here was on that album, which I recently revived out here in Mexico. Did a new kind of version of that with a Mexican singer, Alex Viveros from Steel Sentinel. Great heavy metal band out here. So that was great. A song that has stuck with me through all those years, probably 10 years or more ago now, so, an old song, but one that, that stood the test of the time, I'd say. I did a lot of open mic nights with that song and people always enjoyed it. And that's why I wanted to revive it out here in Mexico and kind of do something raw and basic again, because sometimes those songs are the ones that shine. But yeah, so I did a lot of albums is what I'm getting to. I did Sonic Love, I did Metal Matt Acoustic. Sonic Love, it started to evolve, the sound was good, my singing was better, kind of more high notes and stuff I was doing, which is like my main thing these days. If anyone knows me as a singer, you'll know I'm screaming all the time, and it's kind of went up a level lately. I found a good way to mix, because I do a lot of the mixing myself. Sometimes it's hard to get the perfect mix on a vocal, but lately I've done a lot of Judas Priest covers, and I finally found the best way to mix the vocal, where it really sort of shines, which is good. So you're always learning, but I think all in all I did a few albums. So Metal Matt Acoustic, Sonic Love, Light and Dark, which was a bit experimental, and I had a few more songs with collaborators then. I had a collaborator, Zachary Phillips from New York, who reached out, said, "I can compose some songs for you." He found me on YouTube. I was like, yeah, go for it. So we did like Game Over and Unfaithfully Yours, and a few different ones that ended up on that album, In My Dreams. But also there's a lot of obscure, weird stuff where I was just experimenting on some music app, trying to record stuff, and a lot of weird stuff, on that album. And then I did, I think, Nightmare. Maybe that's all my albums. Yeah, maybe 4 albums, is it? But yeah, Nightmare, that's probably my best and last kind of CD release. So, again, I got a printer to print all the nice album covers that I designed, and I got the CDs printed, and I had to buy a load of cases. I think what I always used to do was buy about 30 or 40 CD cases, and I'd never budge from that. I'd make the same amount every time, and I'd always keep back just one CD for myself, which I still have somewhere to look back on. But yeah, so that's basically how I did it. I had a few CDs, and I'd sell them on Instagram, and just mainly Instagram, because that's where my following was, and still is to an extent, but it's kind of died a death now. Things don't stay, unfortunately. It's very difficult to keep things consistent with social media. You can be really hot one minute, and then the next minute you're not, at least on a certain platform, like YouTube. I was really hot on the past couple of years as Instagram completely died off. And now YouTube's kind of dying a death. A lot of my videos, the shorts get a lot of views, but you're always having to evolve as a musician and find different platforms, because a lot of these platforms don't want to help you, they do for a little bit, and then they want money or something, and they decrease your views and your reach, so now I'm juggling different ways, and Instagram's kind of got better again recently, because it was bad for quite a few years. And yeah, so as a online and independent musician, you're forever having to kind of juggle your ideas and your kind of techniques and methods to keep getting your music out there, because the main thing is just getting your music out there. I forgot what I was actually getting to, but I'm kind of telling you the evolution of how I started out as a musician and the things I've had to face and how I started singing. I think somewhere along the way there was a switch. Like I said, I think the more people were collaborating with me, and, you know, sending me songs. I eventually worked with this guy Carmine, who did some really cool songs. The King of Hearts, Alien Invasion. What else did we do? Burn the Priest. We recently did Devil in Disguise, which featured JJ Brown, who you may know from Fight, Rob Halford's Fight band. Fantastic band. He did some backing vocals on that one. So yeah, Carmine, he's the guitar player. He's fantastic. He's proper old school heavy metal guitar player. And he did a lot of my stuff recent years. And also Sophia, she's kind of got her own group, which is Exiled Hope. She's got a few projects, Exiled Hope. And she's got this other band, Forgotten Shrine, which are really cool. So yeah, Forgotten Shrine, Legally Metal, I think she's called on Instagram. Yeah, I'm just thinking. 1 minute, sorry, someone's messaged me. I've got to get back. There we go. Right, yeah. So basically. A lot of collaborators. Once the collaborators come along, and I kind of took to that, I kind of stopped writing acoustic stuff so much, because as Metal Matt, I felt, well, I need to kind of fly the flag for heavy metal, and if I've got enough collaborators who can compose great pieces of music for me, then that's what I'm gonna do, you know. So yeah, no, it was fantastic. Fantastic to have the opportunity to work with these people, you know, work with people who'd reached out to me and wanted to kind of work with me. That's always an honor, and they're so creative themselves. Sophia, like I say, she did a lot of stuff with me, and Mexico is one of our biggest songs, which features John Foster of Bronxky Beat. That was really cool. He does some great backing vocals. We've done songs, Perfect Misery, which was a great one, Web of Lies. So many songs. I mean, I've probably done hundreds of songs now, both collaborations and stuff where I've just recorded myself. So it's hard to keep track, but yeah, I've had some great collaborators over the years, and I'm glad I've been able to release more metal, you know. So on that note, I'll play a little song now. I'll play a little something as a Judas Priest fan. I recorded this yesterday as a cover, a Judas Priest cover, so have a listen to this. I got the karaoke thing off of YouTube, the instrumental, and this is Painkiller, but Metal Matt style. This is me singing with a backing track I found. So yeah, hope you enjoy this. This is Painkiller.
Terrifying.
we have it, a bit of Painkiller. Hope you enjoyed that. That was
Sure.
that was my version of Painkiller, just a cover. So yeah, hope you enjoyed that. I'm gonna play. I'm just digging out a cover, not a cover, an original in a minute. But yeah, I'm gonna dig out a song which I think I mentioned, "The Last Vow," which. But yeah, I'm going to find this song, "The Last Vow," which is an original song by me, Metal Matt, and it goes back to my acoustic kind of roots. You're going to get a taste of kind of how it all started. And then towards the end of the show, well, we got 2 hours, so we're halfway through the first hour, but towards the end of this show and into the second hour, I'll play a lot of other heavy metal stuff. I just thought I'd start off just talking about how it all started, because it's an interesting thing as a musician. Like I said in the beginning, nobody really is there to help you out. You've got to kind of forge your own path and do it yourself, and it's very difficult. I mean, this day and age, back in the day, you might have had scouts kind of waiting, to see talent or look out for talent or go into shows, But yeah, nowadays it's I don't know, it's so saturated. There's so many singers. Everyone can be a singer if they want to and upload stuff. And unfortunately, I think the algorithms of all the different social media platforms don't particularly favour creatives. They favour people who are doing the same things, trends, and also kind of things that are like pointless, selfies, things like that. There's not a lot of kind of talent being pushed out. So if you are a singer or a creative, it's quite difficult to really get seen. I mean, I've done my best, and I've built up a kind of knowledge of different platforms. So, I'm good at promoting stuff in the best ways I can, and getting my stuff seen by an audience kind of thing. But it's amazing how much better it could be. You can only do the best you can, but the problem is with the way I kind of do stuff, you'd hope for anyone like me who does stuff online, you'd hope that these platforms would push your stuff out there. I've always said if they wanted to, all these platforms could give everyone like 1 million views. Everyone could get the views. They could monetize people's stuff more. And, everyone's happy making money, doing creative things, posting videos and doing songs and stuff. And loads of people could see it. You could have so much opportunity from that. But for some reason, they don't want that. They don't want you to reach your full potential. They want to keep you like a fish on a hook, kind of, waiting for the next bit of bait. They give you a little taste, but you never get the full kind of thing you're hoping for. And that is the only thing with social media. I mean, I hate social media as a whole, and it's one of those things I wish I didn't have to do, but how else are you going to do it? I mean, often on YouTube, I resort to clickbait titles if it's a short video, because short videos, that is the attention span of people these days, and you got to move with the times. And, often I'll have to say, oh, guy sings like Rob Halford, or guy sings like Steve Perry, or whoever, if it's me singing a Judas Priest song or a Journey song or something like that. Because if you just say Journey cover, nobody's going to tune in, nobody's going to click it. And, the views account for themselves, really, the difference in between a little bit of clickbait title and something else. And obviously there's a lot of people who say, oh, clickbait, I don't like that, whatever. Or they think you're really egotistic because you say you sound like someone, or, but the thing is, how else are you supposed to do it if your thing is singing and you are a musician, or your thing is any instrument? If you're in a band and you want to get your band seen, and, it's the choice of having a load of views or staying true to yourself and just never doing anything slightly clickbaity, but never actually getting any views on anything. It's one of those things where if you want to grow and you want to get seen by people, you just got to get your stuff out there. And the thing is, I think it's going to end up at the right audience anyway, because, it's not something I want to do all the time. And the idea is so people go and watch the full videos. And in the past, my full videos, like covers and things, would get a lot of views, but I've noticed recent months it's only the shorts people look at, and you can get thousands of views on there, and I do pretty well, but a full length cover, nobody seems to have the attention span to watch. Originals are my main thing, that's something I kind of like to do, original music. That's something I want to do more of, and like I said, I've worked with a lot of cool people. It's always fun when you can get in the studio. I'm hoping I can get in the studio for a couple of months in England, because I'll be back in England for a little while, and hopefully record something cool, because I love collaborating virtually and kind of doing it. You know, someone composes the music in America or wherever, and then I'm there recording my vocal here in Mexico or in England or wherever. But it's also really fun to actually get in the studio. And the last time I did it was on You Know That I'm Here, my recent recording of that song, which is an early song of mine, which featured the vocalist Still Sentinel. So that was fun, and I did a live studio session kind of thing. But it's always good to actually get in the studio and work through a song and have fun with it. And Changes in You was a song I did which really had that vibe, and it was high quality recording. You know, it's my highest production really of a song. And I then took it and did a music video with it which featured Dom Jolly, famous British comedian who I always loved. You know, I loved his comedy, Trigger Happy TV. So I was honoured to kind of work with him, you know, and have him in a music video. So I've been lucky to have a lot of cool opportunities, and I've always sort of loved getting people involved, be it like celebrity people, just people I admire usually. If I can get a singer I like involved, or you know, or like I say, Dom Jolly was in the music, he's a comedian, but also just collaborating with people, you know, in other countries who've reached out to me and want to collaborate with me is a great thing. You know, I really enjoy that. You know, I enjoy kind of doing that, you know. So yeah, that's always a lot of fun. So yeah, anyway, to play a song now, because I've done enough talking. I'll do some more talking after. This is an early song of mine called The Last Vow, and you'll see what I mean. It's a bit more gothic and acoustic kind of vibes. So this is kind of how it all started. This may be a newer recordings. I kind of re-recorded some of these tracks. I'm not sure which one this is yet, but you'll get an idea of the type of song anyway. Here we go with The Last Vow.
I know you think you know me, but I tell you what you want, and I hide what I feel. My head's in a spin, how I wanna be on top, but I'm alone, my heart is in a knot. Señorita, my schizophrenic mind is driving me insane. All I'm feeling is ongoing pain, and you'll feel the sorrow on my deathbed, and the words I have said, they will linger on my lips. Death is not the answer, I promise you. Death is not the answer, I promise you. Death is not the answer, I promise you. Your life will get better.
And there we have The Last Vow. I'm not sure about that Señorita that I put in there, because I was in Mexico and it was kind of a Mexico version. This was a revived version of the song that I did when I first came to Mexico, and I did a cool little video. I think it's on YouTube. But yeah, I added that little Señorita to give it a bit of a Mexican flair, but I'm not sure it fits in with the vibe. And I think I left out a verse or something compared to the original. You'll have to, if you're a YouTube or whatever detective, you can dig it out and compare versions. But it's a nice, crisp, clear version, and that's kind of the kind of stuff I was doing at the beginning. You know, very kind of clear kind of stuff. But I got a couple of originals I can play you, which will show you some of the stuff I've done with people, to give you an idea of how my music evolved over the years. But really, I'm here just to talk about kind of how it started and what it's like being a musician in this day and age, because a lot of you listening, I'm sure, are music fans, which I am, huge music fan. And being a musician and a singer now, there's so much, I could say, and you have a passion for it, so it's like you can't really put it on the back burner and think, well, it's so difficult, because it is difficult. If I'm going to be honest, it is difficult to be a musician this day and age, and a singer, it's kind of like I have nice comments on my videos and people say, oh, wow, you can sing, dude, you're going to go far and stuff, which I really appreciate comments like that. And, I do it for those people, really. That's kind of what keeps me going, people who enjoy what I do. I know that the bands I loved growing up brought me a lot of kind of enjoyment, and lyrically I put a lot of thought into my lyrics. So, it's great if I know people are relating to it and enjoy what I do. But it's funny how, years ago, someone with a voice as good as mine or better, or maybe a little bit less good or whatever, I'm not going to put myself on any standard. I put a lot of work into my voice. I know I've got to a point where I'm very happy with my voice and I can do a lot of things with it. But it's funny how there's singers in the past who may have had voices better or worse than me that, are millionaires and, being flew out to shows to do big shows and whatever else, but I think not only times have changed, but also it doesn't matter now. You can have a skill or a talent, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to go up to the next stage, because like I say, music and the industry and everything is so saturated these days. I mean, I've always said I want to be independent. Really, I'm not, unless I could get the right deal and I could really know that the things are going to work out well from whatever I'm being offered. But I've always loved being able to do stuff independently, because you got full control. I was listening to an interview with Ice Cube earlier, and he was saying how, a lot of the people who run the music industry, they can pick out songs, or they can say, mention this subject, this is hot at the moment, so drop this little word or terminology, whatever, into your song. And they can also kind of pick which songs are really going to go far. So, there is a whole business side that we don't really think about. And I mean, there's a lot of industry plants. We've seen people popping up over the years. There's been talk of people like Billie Eilish, Youngblood being industry plants. Whether they are or not, I don't know. It's not for me to say. But the term is through around, and, I can see, where that idea comes from. There's a lot of people who get that lucky shot at fame, and it could be just from looking good, or they're in the right place at the right time, or they're there. Probably the most kind of relevant thing would be is they're there to push whatever agenda is cool at the moment, or whatever movement is cool, or whatever's going to get talked about. Because if you're talked about, you're going to get more views, you're going to get more record sales, you're going to get more merch sales, you might get more tickets for people, depending on what you're being talked about. If people are going to come and see you, you're relevant, whether it's hot or not, or all news is good news kind of thing. You're gonna, if you're talked about and you're hot at a certain time point, you can go really far, and if you've got the right people backing you. But for people like me who's independent, tries to stay true to yourself and just, releasing songs from the heart and kind of just real subjects and things like that, it's not always going to be the next big thing. I mean, I'm always living in hope and hoping, that things can really open up. And, I think my main thing as a singer is to just be the best I can be, and kind of, try and achieve the things that I guess teenage me or whatever would have really wanted to. And, you got to make your younger self proud of you if you can set a standard and reach that standard. And, I'm feeling good lately that I've reached a point, because I am very self-critical. Over the years, you might get a few haters and trolls saying stuff on social media, Obviously, I've always had a lot of positives as well, but you're always going to remember the occasional troll, who might say, oh, you're crap, you're whatever, you're shit, mate, all that kind of stuff. And, that's something that comes with the territory. And, if you haven't got haters, you're not doing it right. I've heard that said before, but the funny thing, though, what I always think when I get these kind of things is I always think I don't need your opinion because I am my own worst critic, you know. Like, I know if what I've done is good, or if I could have been better, or if, you know, that high note could have been better, or I need to change the way I sing a certain thing, you know. And I'll be quite obsessive with listening to things I've done and trying to evolve from that and learning what I think, because it's a weird thing being the singer, you know, and I don't think you can truly appreciate your music if you listen to it back, you know, because you're always going to just hear yourself and hear things that other people don't hear. So you can only try and work out what you've done well and what sounds good. So, you know, I'll listen to my voice and I'll think, right, what have I actually done here that is impressive, or how could I change that? Maybe a high note into strong as another one, so it needs a bit more grit on it. Little things like ah, whereas it could be more of a ah, or something if it's heavy metal and you've got to add a bit of distortion. You know, little things, you got to be quite obsessive, you know. And so I'm always like, well, I'm my own worst critic, you know. I know if I should be proud of something or if I shouldn't be, you know. But it's quite weird because, you know, you think of all these other singers like Freddie Mercury or whoever, you know, with wonderful voices. It's kind of, they don't necessarily, they didn't or don't, you know, these really good singers hear themselves how we hear them. I don't think, anyway. At least for myself, I find it hard to separate me as a singer and knowing all the things you've done, you know, because you know what it took to record that. You know your voice and things you may have learned since, and yeah, it's a weird thing to even dive into, but you can only kind of be as perfectionist as you can and get a kind of idea of what's good or what's not. But you'll never be able to say, I could never listen to one of my songs and enjoy it like I listen to, I don't know, Judas Priest or Michael Jackson or whoever, you know. You're never going to be able to hear it in the same way because you made it, you know. So you can only evolve, and kind of, you're always going to notice the worst moments as well, you know. The worst moments are often the things that are really going to stand out, you know. You're not particularly going to remember how good something is. You're going to think, right, well, that could have been better, that could have been better. So yeah, you're always going to get trolls and critics and stuff, but it's always nice to know there's the other side of the coin, where there's a lot of people who enjoy what you do. And the hard thing now as a musician is knowing what the next step is, you know, because, you know, like I say, I might have people say, oh, you're really good, blah, blah, blah. It's like, where does it go from here, you know? Where another musician back in the 80s might have been signed to a record deal who had a voice as good or less good or whatever, or better than mine, may have been signed to some record deal back in the day, made a millionaire or whatever. There's me, I could end up just working behind a till or something, you know, or sweeping the streets or whatever. That's kind of the reality of what a musician is these days, you know. And there's so many great singers out there, so many great musicians. You can only try and be different and hope that the opportunities are going to pop up. But I wonder if the same opportunities are there now. I wonder if people are passionate about music anymore, you know, because I used to get called up to do gigs sometimes. I was offered a gig in London, which I couldn't do because I didn't really know. I think it was Crimson Glory or something. They wanted me to sing a whole show of Crimson Glory. And they were like, you're the only singer who can do this, you know, because it's a high vocal style. And I was like, well, it's tough. You know, I don't know the band really. I've heard of them maybe, but I don't know the songs. And it's like, I couldn't really learn a load of songs in the time. So, you know, I've been offered cool things over the years, you know, and I played in a few bands out here in Mexico, which is great. Often it's me who gets bored because the bands don't often want to play the classic heavy metal. They get me, a classic heavy metal vocalist, and then they want me to do Rammstein, whatever. Stuff like that, which I got no interest in, you know. I like a lot of different stuff. I like black metal, Gal, Gorgoroth, Godseed, that kind of stuff really appeals to me, and a bit of Venom. You know, I love different types of metal, but I'm really into the classic metal. And, you know, often I'm kind of not in the right place. You know, I've had nearly the perfect opportunity, but not quite. You know, I've been offered things out here where I could sing Guns N' Roses tributes as well, Guns N' Roses and Bon Jovi tributes, which I really want to do, but they wanted me like now. It's like, you know, we want you right now. And I don't listen to Bon Jovi and Guns N' Roses. I'm not interested in hair metal or rock or whatever it is, glam sort of stuff particularly. I love Steel Panther. They're like the modern glam, and they're inspired by all that old school glam, but I love that kind of stuff. It's fun, it's funny, and it's great, you know, great musicians, great songs. But typically I'm just into the classic metal, Priest, Sabbath, you know, that kind of stuff. Ozzy, you know, just AC/DC, stuff like that. You know, I'm very kind of old school, classic kind of thing. And really, I want to do my original stuff, but that's never really an option out here in Mexico anyway. And I found the bars and stuff, when you do get a gig, they want you to sing the same stuff. You know, I found that bars will just want to all do the same kind of music, you know. There's no room for someone different to come in and do something different. It's like they want to hear these specific songs, be it some Mexican songs, some November Rain chucked in there or whatever, you know, just the same stuff. There isn't much movement where I would like to be like, right, let's just do a Judas Priest night or whatever, do a tribute to something different that, you know, you don't hear every week at every bar in the area. But it doesn't seem so much of an option. So yeah, I mean, I've struggled with things and opportunities. I've had opportunities come along. The Guns N' Roses thing was cool. They wanted me to sing Guns N' Roses and Bon Jovi at a hotel, and hotel gigs are kind of like the supreme gig out here, you know. But I didn't have enough time for it really, and I don't listen to that stuff. And for me, you know, without sounding egotistic or whatever, I'm the real deal in the sense that I can't phone it in. I can only really do what I love, you know, and I love the classic heavy metal. I enjoy doing my original stuff. But, you know, if I'm going to sing covers, I love the kind of classic songs and bands that I grew up with, bands that I love. And I find it hard to just do something completely different and step in and sing like a night of Guns N' Roses and Bon Jovi if it's not what I listen to and it's not what I sing, you know. I'd like to put the time to it. I think in the future there's something I could do, put the time to it, but because there's no time here, it's like they want you now and they expect you to know these things, because over here there's slightly different music taste to England, and where we know in England a lot of the classic British heavy metal, they're more into an American thing here. I've noticed a lot of the American rock bands, Chris Cornell kind of stuff, and Guns N' Roses, Bon Jovi, all that stuff you'll hear a lot, but you won't hear Priest and you won't hear Sabbath really, and stuff like that. So, you know, it's a different thing, slightly different style, not majorly different, but different enough that if I'm not into it, I'm not into it. And there's struggles like that, personally, I've found. But some singers are really adaptable. I mean, there's a lot of singers over here who just sing whatever they're asked to sing, and that's good. You know, you can go to the bars and sing whatever you want. But one funny thing, which I'll always say, is I don't really do it for anyone else. Because sometimes when I've sang, I've done a lot of busking in England. I did love the reaction. I've had some good reactions from people, you know, over the years. You know, I've had some good kind of reactions to the music I've done and covers when I'm playing on the streets in England and stuff. But sometimes you'll see people looking at you like you're trying to impress them. And it's funny, I kind of look at them and I think, I'm not trying to impress you, you know, it's not actually what I care about, you know. It's like, I'm not here to actually impress you. I don't need that validation. And although it may look on to people like, oh, he's trying to get people to like him, you know, it's not. I just love knowing that I've achieved a good singing standard, or I've nailed the song. You know, I'm not really looking in people's eyes like some people I know. Some singers definitely feed off that audience reaction and looking at you in the eyes. I like it after a gig when people come up to you and want selfies and that. I've had that a lot of times and it's nice. But sometimes it's almost off-putting when you look in their eyes and you know they think you're trying to impress them. And it might sound weird, but I'm just like, I don't care. I'm not trying to impress anyone. You know, I'm quite a solitary, quiet person, really. I'm not into people. So it's quite weird. I'm kind of tackling my introverted self to be a musician. You know, it's a weird, almost fighting with the two sides of my brain, where one side would love to just stay away from everyone and live a quiet life. But then at the same time, I love singing and getting out on a stage sometimes. Probably prefer writing songs and recording songs, really. That's where the fun is for me, and where I really enjoy, you know, the songwriting process. And, you know, I'm just as happy really singing covers and recording covers at home as I am on a stage somewhere doing it. So, yeah, it's a weird thing. I'm not necessarily doing it for the people, but I hope that people enjoy it. You know, but for me, it's therapeutic, and like I say, I like to think I'm the real deal in the real sense of the word, because I don't fake it, you know. So yeah, that's me, and you know, we're getting into the next hour now. But before we go there, I'll play a little song called "Burn the Priest" by me, Metal Matt.
What do you need from me? No more hypocrisy, yeah. Taking down your demons, lying to your only son, protesting the tyranny, taking back our liberties. I was born to be free, and not to flee. Burn the priest, let the demons feast. Lead us in lies. Just open your eyes. Words from the wise. Things don't get better unless you try. Conditioned into submission, Russian roulette's place your bets. Benevolent cries, time to cut the ties. Burn the priest, let the demons feast. And leave this conformist society. Burn the priest.
Hey, this is Satchel from Steel Panther. You're listening to Metal Stream Radio with Metal Matt, and he's totally naked from the waist down.